and they look like favorites.
This is my lock of the week.
Dodgers.
No. But don't do this.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Vegas Sports Panel. We're going to do a video on the year 2020 and COVID. Was basketball and baseball? Or those
specifically
those two?
Today, yeah.
Were they legit? The championships? I mean, they didn't play a lot of games. It was knee deep in COVID, and we started talking about it around the panel here, and it got interesting. So we thought we'd just hit the record button and just kind of see what we get. What do you guys think? Make sure you leave it in comments.
Definitely put it in the comments. See who.
Yes, we definitely need some feedback on comments on. There's only two sides of the story, so tell us which.
Right. All right. Well, let's start it off. Bob, give us a little bit, kind of preface what we're talking about, because do you think that they're legit, or do you think that there should be an asterisk, or?
Well,
I mean, what do you think?
No, I'm not big on asterisks.
Okay.
It either is or it isn't.
Okay.
Because and throughout history, it's not just 2020. There's been shortened seasons.
Right.
There's been mitigating circumstances.
It's an excellent phrase.
Is that the right terminology though? I mean, okay. I mean,
extenuating circumstances.
There you go.
Whatever that means.
So how many games do they play in a regular NBA season?
What?
82.
So they played 72 in the 2020. So they 10 games short.
10 games short.
See, that one would be a
so
little
that's
bit
like
more
80%
close.
of the games, and then they took like 3 months off.
Yeah. They really played that many games?
Yes.
Right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
there were some before, there were some after, obviously.
Yeah, they played. I guess we're starting with NBA.
Right.
So they played like 60 games, 62 games maybe before it got canceled,
Probably right around there.
and then they took months off, and then they did like a ramp
everything
in the
Orlando.
bubble,
Yeah,
everything
the
in
bubble.
Orlando, no fans, and like
So if you're
players
gonna
on the
change
bench.
everything like that. Yeah, that's just they
But
should have made that just a whole different exhibition.
But
Right.
but so there was a 10 game ramp up, I think, where everybody
Before the playoffs?
everybody who had a shot to make the
Right.
playoffs was in the bubble. There was teams that were not in the bubble.
That's right. But the Suns won every one of their games in the bubble.
Yes,
Still
and they
didn't
did
the
not
playoffs.
make the playoffs.
But I guess before the bubble they had
Well, because
mathematical
they had a
chance,
shot to
if
make
a
it.
bunch of other teams would have
Yes,
to lose them on
yes,
everything, right?
yes. So they were there.
If
They
the
went
Suns in the
8-0.
bubble winning every single game doesn't propel you into fighting for the championship, then that shows you how illegitimate the crowning of the champion was. Then I think.
Well, I think it.
The hottest team in the league.
Well, so that's the thing, guys. What does it take to be a legitimate championship? Is it amount of games? Is it that everybody has an equal chance? Is it? Those are the type of things we want to focus on.
the
think-
hottest
I think
and best team at
know,
that moment.
At
wasn't
that
even-
moment,
wasn't even
but that's
allowed.
not what the NBA season is about. So I think it lends more credence to the fact that they were not very good for the first 60
Yeah,
games of the
right.
season. And so they had a shot. They had their shot.
And they did all they possibly could.
They did all they possibly could. They
Couldn't
didn't make
have done
it.
anymore.
Could not have done any more.
They're
Unless,
perfect.
unless they Tanya Hardinged one of the other teams or something like that, then they could have made
Oh,
it.
that would be wild.
But yeah, that's what kind of strengthens my argument. I think is that lends credence to the length of the games that they played previously, the regular season.
Yeah.
They played. What did Brandon say?
72
72
games.
total, but I think it's probably around
Yeah,
60
but 60
before,
before, and then like 10 or 12 after.
yeah.
Before we got to the playoffs for the
Playoffs, yeah.
ramp up before we had the playoffs. So there was 60 games previous to that
True.
included in that season that they weren't very good.
Yeah.
Okay.
unfortunately.
So I think that then the bubble was very weird.
Yeah.
No fans, no home court advantage, none of that. So
But everybody had to do it, right?
Everybody had to
that's
do
the
it.
thing.
True.
What's the key to it? I mean, just kind of in a nutshell, what makes
Why
it
do I
either
think-
legitimate
why do I
or
think
not?
It's not as legitimate.
the Lakers
Well,
championship.
yeah.
We'll get to baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Lakers chip.
Right.
Because it was the Lakers, I don't want to recognize it because of that. First of all,
That sounds like a
And-
personal thing, but okay, it
Yeah,
factors
it
in.
is.
Okay.
But my basis, in fact, is I mean, I haven't given this enough thought as I probably should have before we hit the record
Obviously.
button. But just the interruption of play and the change,
40-year-old LeBron got to rest for
yeah,
2 months before we start the
that's part of
playoffs.
it. And
It was a pretty
Just seemed
big
corrupt.
and also,
time.
it was a
That's-
pretty big difference from a normal season. I mean,
Yes,
there
it
were a
was, yeah.
lot of things that were different. So, I mean, it's like, how can you say that that you got to show your wares and some people, if more people were sick, then you did worse. I mean,
I
but
would like
what
to
what
say
makes it legit?
One reason I like to say that it's not legit
Okay.
is because Brandon's a Lakers fan, and I like to get under his skin. And
Okay,
it
so it's more
annoys
of
him
a
lot.
You're
it's
a
just more
Laker
of a
fan?
personal thing rather than an actual statistic thing.
I didn't say that.
Apparently
Listen,
today you're a Laker
I
fan?
became a Laker fan.
You're,
Okay.
I've told you
Okay.
before, I'm not a big Laker LeBron fan. Like, I wasn't a big fan of, like,
because of LeBron?
yeah, I'm just not like, I thought it was a bad choice bringing him in.
Okay.
But it got you the championship that you were celebrating a couple years ago that you thought is legitimate.
But you thought, oh god.
Well, let's get Brandon's opinion.
Yes,
Okay,
okay,
yeah,
yeah.
okay, because we kind of know where Bob is, and we'll come back to that. All right. So why do you think it's just it's legit? Why wouldn't it be?
Well, I guess because everybody was under the same rules.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody had to play the same.
Well,
So I mean,
yeah,
I can see that.
Well, yeah, you have to play each other. I mean, that's the obvious.
No, I'm just saying
Yeah,
that
it
you
wasn't
don't
like,
you
it
don't
wasn't
get.
like it was figure skating judges giving. I mean, it was
yeah, I mean,
competition. Yes.
the Heat showed up to win every night. They didn't like say, oh, we just, this.
Oh yeah, the Miami Heat did too. True.
Yeah, so I mean, so
They
they
got
had to
that-
they
they got
had to
the
beat
fun.
somebody. They all went, but it's no different as far as like sick or this or that. There's really, I mean, every season has its own tale. Like whether you play all, however many games or you play X amount of games. Like most people don't remember the fact that Greasy or whatever didn't quarterback the majority of the
Oh,
perfect
that-
season.
right, right.
Oh right,
They
he
just-
came in
he
the
comes in
playoffs
for the Super Bowl.
Earl Morrall.
Somebody,
Morale
I
and
tell you what, again, that's where he puts you. If you if you're not the Super Bowl quarterback, and even though you went perfect, nobody remembers your name.
Let me ask you a question. If there's 82, if they only played say 40 games, would the amount of games change your decision at all? If they played 20 games, would it change your decision on whether a legitimate championship is legit or not? Obviously, they're going to give them the trophy. They're going to
They
have
got-
it
right, they
marked
got to
down.
have
It's
the
going to be
parade
their
and
spot
all
in
that,
there.
yeah.
But in your mind, can you say, they played 20 games? That's like quarter of the season. Some people don't even get going. I mean, would that change your mind, or you would just say, hey, look, everybody had to do the same. They all played the same amount of games, and whoever weathered it and came out best deserves the championship.
There is that point. Yeah.
I mean, is that how you feel, or are games actually a factor for you?
Well, I mean, as far as the regular, I mean, you hope to. I mean, if we're talking baseball, you hope to play more than 20 games.
No, we're talking basketball.
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna get to
So,
Let's-
I mean,
we'll
if
do
you
baseball
played-
in just a second.
I mean, if you played at least but the biggest thing is
I didn't realize they did actually play 72. Huh? Okay.
the dynamic of the playoffs changes no matter what.
Right,
like
right.
whoever you are, now you're playing for. I mean, I guess I don't.
Well, it does change the intensity.
It doesn't
changes.
really matter, like the playoffs are a separate entity from the regular season,
Yeah.
anyways.
Strategies change, your bench shortens.
But not
Yeah.
talking about playoffs, but like if it was a 20-game season, is there a number to where you go, that's not enough games for this to be legit? Or is it like, as long as everybody has the same and we agree upon it, then you know
Right.
what, we'll
I
just...
guess
that's a tough question.
Those are the two ways to look at it. Yeah, right.
I mean, yeah, I think there's just a certain point where it's not enough game. I mean, at 20 games, that's not enough.
Okay, see, that's what
I
I'm...
mean,
that's
like-
what, we got to find that.
But if you played half the season or a good
I
portion,
like half.
I mean, you got to legit. I mean, again, because
Everybody else
Because
had
everybody
to.
was the same.
Right.
True.
I mean, yeah, there's always rare circumstances. And this is a really rare, weird. It was a weird year.
Yeah.
I
Man,
mean,
oh,
it was,
man, oh, man.
it's almost 2
Hopefully
years
we
now
won't see anything
anniversary.
like that again, but...
I mean,
Okay. All right. Bob, you got anything else on NBA? I mean, I know you didn't really, because you say it shouldn't be legit or it is legit.
I think it is legit. I mean,
It's got a little funk on it.
It's got a little funk on it, but you got to your seeding points by playing a majority of the season. The seeds weren't going to change that much. Most of the teams were majority healthy once we got to the bubble. There was no home court advantage. Everybody had to play in Orlando.
Okay.
LeBron got to rest longer. That obviously helped. But Miami got hot, and then Bam got hurt for the finals. But like that happens every playoffs.
Yeah,
you know,
can't
like
really,
Isaiah Thomas gets hurt in Game 6 by turning his ankle and
right.
89 or whatever, and then you lose the next 2 games. Like injuries are part of the game.
Right.
Illnesses are part of the game. I feel like that was a pretty legit season. I just didn't like the outcome, and there's a little funk on it, but it
Right.
counts.
Okay. All right. Let's go baseball.
agree.
That's the other one that we said we might have a question about,
Yeah.
right?
Baseball, I way differ on.
Okay. All right, Roger. Why don't you start us off on the baseball one?
Baseball. Well, unfortunately,
Reasons why.
if anyone cares to even recall, I mean, it's
I know 2 years
meaningless
ago.
anyway. But the Dodgers won the World Series in 2020.
Get us all caught up.
But apparently, they baseball season normally is 162 games. I think somebody looked that up. Our crack research staff, and they only played 60 games before the playoffs. And they had expanded playoffs too. So to me, no, 60 is not enough. That's not a championship season in baseball.
Right.
You
Okay.
know? So any postseason awards for that season to me is
A little bit tainted.
tainted and just not worth even having it written in the history books at all. It shouldn't
Okay.
be.
Okay. What do you think? You thinking the same thing, or are you just like, hey, just like the NBA, you know what? Everybody had to play the same. That sucks, but that's how it is. This is just a reduced season. Brandon, what's your take on it?
No, actually, with baseball, I see it just a little bit differently as far as like the games. I think it'd have been nice to see him play at least a few more games, but with the way they did it and they expanded the playoff format, realistically, in a baseball season, usually takes a few games to find yourself swing wise, whatever. And at that point, at least, like I said, if they would only just stuck to the same playoffs setup, I would have said not so much. And I'm not saying there's not like I said, I don't think it's enough games in the regular season, but once you hit the playoffs, I think it showed that again, the guys had played enough, and the competition was a good. I mean, it was fun to watch.
The
It was
best,
fun
the
to
better,
watch.
the best
Fun to
teams played in the playoffs and won better. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
like some team that, just got hot for the last 20 games. All of a sudden, it's like you were under
Yeah.
500 all season. Where
No, and exactly, and
what's in that medicine?
and if you were one of those teams like we were talking about with the Suns, they gave those teams a chance in a
Right.
sense.
And that's all. Just kind of it wasn't
So-
fair.
so
as
it
fair
was
as can
like-
be, I guess.
I get the regular season was way too short,
Right.
but then again, they were also the only team that got hit right at smack when everything shut down, like spring
Yeah,
training.
because it
like,
was middle of March
Yeah,
and they
that's right.
started
so
out.
they
Yeah.
were like, I mean,
Okay. All right.
And then
Bob?
they're probably just out of it for 6 months before they could even.
I mean,
I don't even remember when that restarted again, where they
I don't either.
were like, "Oh, we're gonna play the baseball season."
I don't either. But I mean, I've
It was
never
probably
seen-
around,
I
like,
could never
August?
imagine
I was gonna say late July or something, but yeah, I don't recall.
I don't
But
know, it was
I
a
agree
mess.
with
If they
Fran-
played 60, I mean, August, September would have, they had,
Well,
it was probably like late July when they
I
started
agree
back
in the sense that it's legitimate in the fact that everybody played under the same rules and under the same constructs, and this is who won it, right?
up. You're right. There's
But
that.
I don't think it holds the same legitimacy as other seasons, which doesn't make it not legitimate. I just think it makes it less legitimate. But they were the champions. It's not like I'm arguing for like, oh no, like
Well, they won that
some
little- they won
some
that
other
little
team
tournament.
would have won it.
They won that
if-
little
if
tournament
it was
that
a normal season.
Yeah, some other team would have won it if it was a normal season, or some other team would have, like some other team didn't get a fair chance because
Right.
this is the way that we played it. They won
No, right.
under the circumstances that it was, but it's not the same as other championships. It's just a different championship, and I think that's how that year and the next year are going to go down. Is they're championships, but they're different. They're not an asterisk, but
Right.
they're not as it's not like they're not as legitimate, but they're just different. They won under the circumstances that were set before them. All the other teams had the same circumstances set before them, same rules,
So I mean,
same guidelines. It's not like, Vlad Guerrero Jr. got COVID and he's going to miss this playoff series. Like no major players were out. No,
and it's just really weird how
that they lucked out with that because it would have
Yeah,
been
right.
as much
a mess.
time as
Well, I think that happened this year in the
right.
NFL playoffs that we saw. Like they stopped. They're like, we're not going to test anybody anymore.
Yeah, right.
From, like,
We don't want-
from
we
like
don't want-
week
we don't want-
17
yeah,
on.
no,
Like
yeah.
we don't need a playoff game. We're like, oh, Aaron Rodgers popped on Thursday. He's not going to be able to play on Sunday. Let's just not test anybody because like
Right.
That makes it more illegitimate, is if guys are out
Someone's working the deal and
when they're not hurt.
Oh yeah, no, and it's just I was just gonna throw on Jones. Like it really is wild to think how like, yeah, I think there's a whole group of us that are gonna look back and like we were all just like, I don't even really remember when the baseball season started. Like that year in general is gonna be
It was
like,
fuzzy,
they
it's
had to
fuzzy in
stand
the
up.
head for a lot
yeah,
of
you
fans.
call it an asterisk or whatever,
Cut out those
but
cardboard things.
Oh, you have season tickets? We'll put
I
your
mean-
card up thing, and if a foul ball hits you, we'll send you
Yeah.
the foul
That's
ball.
pretty
Thanks
neat,
for sending us the money for your
Yeah.
tickets so you can't
Yeah.
come to the game.
like one of those like, you were alive during the Great Depression, Grandpa. Well, you know, like you were alive during COVID.
I went through COVID.
I was fucking working at Bahama Breeze. Let me
Those
tell
were
you.
the days. All right, some good
Whoa.
points, guys. Make sure if you got any comments, what do you think? I mean, is it the amount of games? Is it that everybody gets a fair shot? I mean, you know, when people invent these games, they have a number of games for a reason. I mean, they don't have 80, you know, they have 82, not 40. 162, not, 37, for a reason. So it's got to factor in. What do you think? All right. Thanks for watching. Make sure you get subscribed, and we'll see you in the next video.